Listen to what just happened, not the sound, but what came after. For 3,000 years, monks have chanted Om in caves and monasteries across Asia. The sound is everywhere now, commodified, familiar, reduced to background noise for relaxation playlist. But here's what almost everyone misses. The sound of Om was never the practice. The Mandukya Upanishad, 12 verses, that scholars say contain the entire essence of meditation. It is explicit about this. It breaks Om into 4 parts, not 3 but 4. The A, the the and the something they called amatra, the measureless, the soundless, the silence that remains when the vibration dies. They called it Turiya, the 4th state, and this is where everything actually happens. 25 centuries later, when neuroscientists put meditators through brain scanners, they realized that the silence after sound and vibration produces distinct neurological changes that the vibration alone doesn't create. The brain's self-referential chatter goes quiet, new neurons grow, and the fear center deactivates. But first, we need to understand what the Om sound is actually doing to our physiology. Because the silence only works if you understand what it is interrupting. Before the Vedas were transcribed, they were chanted, passed from teacher to student through pure sound, memorized syllable by syllable across generations. Om appears in earliest texts we have, already understood as something fundamental about reality itself. The Chandogya Upanishad, composed somewhere between 800 and 600 BC, opens with a direct instruction: let a man meditate on Om. The text doesn't teach the sound as an end. It teaches the sound as a vehicle, a way to quiet the modifications of the mind until something else can be perceived. The ancients mapped each sound of Om to a state of consciousness with remarkable precision. A represents waking awareness, the state where you are hearing these words right now. U represents the dream state, consciousness turned inward. And finally, the humming, lips closed, represents deep dreamless sleep where individual awareness dissolves into something unified. And finally, the 4th, Turiya, has no sound at all. It is represented by the silence after, the dot above the Om symbol when written in Sanskrit, the space where the vibration was. The Mandukya Upanishad describes it entirely through negation, what it is not. In many research studies, when practitioners were placed inside a brain scanner and were observed what happened when they chanted Om, the pattern was remarkably similar to what clinicians see in patients using vagus nerve stimulation, a medical intervention for treatment-resistant depression. That humming at the end of the chant isn't incidental. It vibrates the larynx in a way that stimulates the vagus nerve directly, shifting the entire nervous system from vigilance to rest. And another study found that humming increases nitric oxide in the nasal passages by 15 times, a compound that dilates blood vessels improves oxygen delivery, and carries antiviral properties. Many traditions around the world that developed this practice understood the sound as a preparation, not the destination. What mattered was what came after, the silence that remained when the vibration faded, and what could be perceived there. But what actually happens in that silence? Why did every tradition treat it as more important than the sound itself? But what actually happens in that silence? Why did every tradition treat it as more important than the sound itself? Every contemplative tradition on earth, separated by oceans, by centuries, by languages that share no common root, arrived at the same discovery. The Tibetan master Milarepa, after years alone in Himalayan caves, is attributed with teaching his students. In the gap between thoughts, non-conceptual wisdom shines continuously. The practice was never to stop thinking. You cannot stop the wind with your hands. The practice was to notice what thoughts appear in, the way you might stop watching clouds long enough to recognize the sky they move through. The Japanese built an aesthetic philosophy around this recognition. They called it Ma, the meaningful gap, the pause between notes that gives music its shape, the empty space in a painting that makes the brushstrokes visible, the silence between words that allows meaning to land. In 2001, neuroscientists discovered that the monks had mapped centuries earlier a network in the brain that generates your sense of being self. They called it the default mode network. In 2015, researchers in Germany found something they hadn't expected. They exposed mice to music, white noise, ambient sound, and silence, then measured the growth of new neurons. Silence outperformed every sound they could offer. The brain didn't grow in response to stimulation, it grew in the absence of it. Look between the thoughts rather than at the thoughts. For 3,000 years, ancients have been chanting and then stopping. And the stopping was never a pause between repetitions. It was the destination the sound was carrying them toward. From the moment you acquired language, you acquired something else alongside it, a narrator. A voice that takes a raw flow of experience and shapes it into a story with the main character. And that main character is always you. This voice is so constant, so intimate, that you probably don't hear it as a voice at all. You hear it as yourself. The ancients discovered it could be quieted. Not silenced forever, not destroyed, just quieted. The way a lake settles when wind stops moving across it. The Mandukya Upanishad describes waking, dreaming, and deep sleep as three states of consciousness. But Turiya, the fourth, isn't a state at all. The space in which all experience appears and dissolves. The sound of chants of Om was useful. The way a finger pointing at the moon is useful. But you don't spend your life staring at the finger. The silence after Om isn't something you create. It's what remains when you stop creating everything else. It was here before the first ancients chanted. It's here now.